Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the past week or so. And as is the norm, Guyana is a dynamic society, and in any given week, we have a menu, a packed menu of issues. This week is no different. I want to begin by welcoming our viewers who are joining us on television in West Coast Berbice, region number 5. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our viewers on television who are joining us on, on television in region number 6, East Bank, Berbice, New Amsterdam, Kanji, and along the Quarantine Coast, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners and viewers who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Robb Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the tens of thousands of you who are joining us across Guyana on Facebook, across the Caribbean on Facebook, across North America, Europe, Asia, and even further afield. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And I see several hundreds of you have already joined on Facebook. Please press that share button on your phone, press that share button on your tablet, on your iPad, on your computer, so that as many of your friends and followers can join us in tonight's discussion so that we can have the widest possible audience. As I said, I want to make this program interactive, so I see Hare Sankar, Robert Ramp, Bibi Rahina, Ali, Fred Samwaru, Raji Maharaj. All these are very popular persons on this feed. Frank Badri Narayan, Fazlur Ali, Kamta Dani, Richard Stanislaus, Dude Pasad, and you are joining me from North America, from Europe. I see people from Holland. I see people from as far as Singapore. Of course, New York is in the house. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. My friend Euclid Gomes, attorney at law from Prashad Nagar, Georgetown, is joining us. Mohammed Hussein is with us. Maureen Ramcharan, please continue to press that share button on your phone. Press that share button on your tablet or whatever instrument you're using so that this program can be shared on your wall, on your account, and we can get the widest possible audience. So, and also I invite you to send me your thoughts, send me your comments, send me issues that you would like to address so that we can have an interactive program and we can have a discussion that is mutually beneficial to all of us. So I want to begin by extending emancipation greetings to all of our Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters, and indeed Africans everywhere. Today is an important event on the calendar of the world. It commemorates the 85th anniversary of the abolition of slavery, at least in this part of the world and certainly in Guyana. Slavery stains and continue to be a stain on human civilization. It is the most horrendous epoch in mankind's history of cruelty by man against man. We must always recognize and salute the sacrifices of our foreparents, our ancestors who were enslaved, and we must celebrate what they have achieved by winning freedom. And it was not an easy task to win freedom. And that's why today, one of the most important discourses taking place globally is the call for reparation and the discussions surrounding reparations for the damage done during slavery. Our president, once again, has lent his voice and lent the voice of the government of Guyana to the call for reparations. It cannot make amends for what have been done, the atrocities committed, but at least it would be a recognition. It would be a recognition of the horrendous cruelties that were inflicted upon human beings during that period and during that unusually cruel and inhuman system of subjugation. I want to once again salute all of our Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters in Guyana and across the Caribbean and in this hemisphere on this very important day. And I also wish to extend Emancipation greetings to all Guyanese. It is not an Afro-Guyanese festival, it is a national festival of public and historic importance, and it is important to every creed, every class, and of course every ethnicity. We have emancipation celebrations taking place across our country, and our government has contributed to those celebrations and we are participating in those celebrations across the landscape of this country. So I went into Madia yesterday. I spent the entire day yesterday and most of today in Madia, Region 8, to complete the execution of Cabinet's decision to offer financial assistance to our Amerindian brothers and sisters who were affected by the fire at the Madia school dormitory. You will recall that Cabinet made a decision to offer as another form of assistance, and I repeat, not compensation. I keep seeing in the press that it is being reported that the government is paying compensation. The government is doing no such thing. The government made a promise and a commitment to offer whatever assistance the government can to the persons affected, the relatives, the families, the parents, the siblings, and government is discharging that commitment. I have already, and government has already made public the assistance, and we are continuing to offer more. In this time, in this instance, we have offered cash assistance or assistance in monetary form. It has unfortunately been converted into a criticism and into a controversy by certain people in certain quarters. Government has been accused of being cruel. Government has been accused of even forcing persons to sign the documents. All sorts of things were said. You know, it has been in the public domain. And we have made it clear, I have made it clear, that we were accused of even listing what we have done. And the intention was not to list what we have done. The intention was to explain that this financial assistance is part and parcel of a series of assistance that the government is offering and will continue to offer. This is not the end. In any event, government is using public funds in these endeavors. And these funds have to be accounted for. And they will have to be made public. And they have to be made public, rather. And they will be made public in even greater details, because it's not coming from any minister's personal bank account. It's coming from the National Treasury. And we are an accountable government. And once you expend public funds, you have to account for it. And that's why it is called public funds. You have to account to the public for their funds. So I don't understand the basis of the criticism. They seem to be saying that because we have done something, we are, boasting about it. That's the impression I get. It's nothing of the sort. And as I said, there is no compensation being paid or offered. Compensation is a legal terminology which connotes that there is an acceptance of blame or culpability, or there is a finding of blame or culpability by a tribunal of competent jurisdiction. None of those things have happened. None of those things have happened. So the term compensation ought not to be used, cannot be used, and is improper to use in the context. We have said that we are going to hold, the government is going to hold a COI. The president is returning to the country, and soon that COI will be established. And the members appointed by the president will be sworn in. And the COI will begin its work. I have been accused, and the government has been accused, of preempting the work of the COI. Even I see leading press outfits have taken such a position, that by offering this financial assistance, somehow that is preempting the work of the COI. I don't understand that logic. I don't understand that process of reasoning. The COI has an amplitude of power based upon their terms of reference to make findings based upon the evidence that will be presented to it. It's totally unrelated and will be totally unaffected by what the government is offering as a form of financial assistance. The COI, if they wish, may take that into account, but as a matter completely within the remit and jurisdiction of the COI members. And they are saying that the agreement is a final settlement. If they read the agreement that I have prepared for the people to sign, the word final is not there. It is not there. The agreement itself speaks to a COI. They are accusing me and the government of preempting the work of the COI, but they have done so because based upon what they are saying in their public outpourings, they have found the government liable already. They have found the government liable. And they are saying that we are preempting the COI when they have done exactly that. We have engaged, the government has engaged reputable members of the private bar to sit with us, prepare those agreements, and travel with us to Madia when we are meeting these people. Mr. Teniusti accompanied me this time to offer independent legal advice should be the people require that. Are these people saying, these commentators out there, and I'm going to deal with them as I go on, are they saying that Mr. Usti, Mr. Teni Usti, a reputable lawyer in private practice, he was 4 times president of the Guyana Bar Association. He has acted as vice president for I don't know how many times. I think he's the current vice president. Mr. Usti and Mr. Kioma Griffith, who went with me the last time. These 2 gentlemen are going to compromise their integrity and be part of a process that is improper. These gentlemen will tarnish their reputation, they will tarnish their image, they will put their character and professionalism on the line for the government and lend their services to a process that is improper, unethical, illegal. Is that what these people are saying? Fortunately, we brought these people on board, these lawyers on board, so that they can look from an objective point of view at the documents and at the engagement. And they have signed on and all the documents so far executed. But here, what is the most important thing? I just came, as I said, from Madia, spending 2 days with the persons whom we did not get an opportunity to engage on the last time I went because of where they were living and you had transportation difficulties. Proper arrangements were made and they came out from the villages of Chenapau and from the villages of Chenapau and Kalisparo. An helicopter had to bring them to Madia. And the people are aware. I had this very frank engagement with them. They are aware of what is being said by the Amerindian People Association, Amerindian People's Association. They are aware of what APNU and other politicians are saying about them. And the people made it very clear to our delegation and to our team that firstly, they are deeply grateful for all the assistance that the government has rendered to them, that they are fully on board with this process, and that they are accepting the assistance that the government is offering, that they welcome the decision of the government to establish the COI, that they are very happy that a person has been charged in relation to the burning of the Madia dormitory, and most importantly, that the Amerindian People's Association and APNU AFC are not representing them on this matter, and are not representing them, period. That they never authorized them to speak on their behalf, that they have no authority to speak on their behalf, and that the views represented and presented by the APNU and the APA are not the views and do not reflect the views of the persons who are engaged and the Amerindian community affected by this tragedy. And they told me to make that public. So all the press operators and journalists who are listening to me, I am bringing a message to you from the Amerindians. They said that the lawyers in the APNU AFC and the leaders of the APNU AFC have not made a single contact with any of them, even to offer their sympathies and condolences by phone. That the APA have not made contact with them to even offer their sympathies or condolences by phone. Certainly, no APNU AFC leader or member went in and met with anyone. The APA never went into the community and met with anyone. That not a single iota of assistance has been offered to the people by the APNU or the APA. Yet, these two organizations and their members are using the people's tragedy to build a resume in the press. They are using the people's tragedy as a political football, kicking it about, pretending to be concerned, pretending to care. The APNU AFC have many lawyers. If they are so concerned about these people's interest, why don't they go and meet them? Why do they not file cases if they feel that the people have some great injustice being done to them? Not even a phone call. The APNU, the APA, they're standing on the sideline and passing judgment on what the government is doing. But they have done nothing. And they are condemning what the government is doing and condemning what I have done and what I have said, twisting everything that I have said in a negative way, accusing me of being cruel, as though I ever said that this money will ever compensate anyone for the loss of their child. I have not one moment, in fact, I made that very, very clear, that if the government is to offer hundreds of millions of dollars, it will not be appropriate compensation for the loss of any child. You think that we are that cruel in government? To think that we can just shove X million dollars to the people and that's compensation for their children? All of us in our government have children. We are not that insensitive. Apparently these people are. And let me tell the lawyers something who I've seen making statements. I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but when we were in the opposition and I saw an injustice, I not only made it public and I not only wrote and spoke about it on television and on Facebook, I took actions. And I have a long list of cases to which I can make reference of the actions that I took when injustice was done when I was in the opposition. And I did it in the name of our party, the People's Progressive Party. When the rice farmers' lands were taken away, I took to the court and I won back the lands for them and I won millions of dollars in compensation. When the sugar workers were not paid their superannuation benefits and their severance pay, and they were not paid interests on those monies, I took the matter to court and I won millions and millions of dollars for the sugar workers. When persons died illegally in police custody, I went and met their families and I sued the then government and I won millions of dollars in the court for them. When babies and mothers died at the hospital in the public health care system and I believe that negligence was committed, I sued the hospital and I sued the government and I won millions of dollars for the families. When the 1900 and something Amerindian CSO were dismissed, I sued on behalf of the People's Progressive Party. Unfortunately, that case never came up. So, do that. Don't sit in your air-conditioned office and do Facebook Live and kicking about the people's tragedy like a political football and shedding crocodile tears as though you care and you have not even made a phone call to the people. Go and meet them. I did that when I was in opposition. And don't tell me I'm using government resources to do it now. I am doing government's work now. But when I was in the opposition, I used my own resources. I used to give these people who I want to see and who money to get transportation, to pay their passage, to come to my discourse. I used to pay their passage, give them lunch when they come to my office. They are listening to this discourse. They know what I'm talking about. That is what I did. And that is what the PPP did when we were in opposition. That is political representation. That is a party that cares. Not what you're doing. You're judging people and you're only criticizing and you're just scoring political points of the trauma, the tragedy, the pain and the anguish of those Amerindian people. That's what you're doing. And they recognize that. And that's what they tell me to tell you. 2 days I spent with them. That is what they said. You don't represent them. You have not helped them. And they are happy that the government is working with them and assisting them. And they send their deepest gratitude to the president and the entire cabinet. And they told me to tell you that. So Stabrook News wanted a response to the APA statement. Well, that is my response. This is my response. Publish this in the newspapers as my response to the APA statement. Because that is what the people said. I didn't want to respond by myself. I wanted to go and discuss what the APA said. I walked with their statements and I discussed it with the people. And that was the people's response. And they asked me to say it publicly. And Mr. Tenny Usti, who was with me, I've asked him to do a television program also explaining this whole situation and what the people, he heard the people say at the engagement about those out here in Georgetown who are representing their interests. You will hear it from Mr. Usti himself, because I asked him and he says yes, he will do it. So I thought that I'll put that out there and hopefully put that matter to rest, and hopefully people will stop playing politics with the pain, suffering, and anguish of our Amerindian brothers and sisters who are affected by this tragedy. You see, when you live in your ivory towers out in the coast, you don't know what those people, what the conditions and the way of life of those people. You don't understand the level of poverty that we are speaking about. You don't understand it. You have to go and see it. You have to meet these people, interact with them. They are receiving nothing from nowhere. And government is assisting, and government is being condemned and criticized. A gentleman is asking me why I am angry. I am not angry. I am energized because I know how important this engagement is for our Amerindian brothers and sisters. And I know how fully supportive they are of this initiative and how they have fully participated. And then I'm reading in the newspapers and I'm reading on the internet the views of those who have done nothing and are prepared to do nothing, not even a phone call to the people, but are sitting in their ivory towers passing judgment upon what is being done. I have a fundamental problem with that. It's not anger, my friend. It is energy. So, tomorrow, August the 3rd, August the 2nd, will commemorate and mark the third anniversary of the return to government of the People's Progressive Party after an elongated delay in swearing in the new government after the March 2nd, 2020 general elections. And you know how and why that delay took place. The world saw the attempts made to steal the government and steal those elections by those at GCOM and those at Congress Place and wherever the AFC headquarters is. We battled, the people battled, the international community raised its voice and took the necessary actions, and eventually, 3 years ago, on the 2nd of August, President Ali was sworn in as president, Mark Phillips was sworn in as Prime Minister, Bharat Jagdev as Vice President, yours truly as Attorney General, and Gail Teixeira as Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance. No doubt tomorrow we will have a series of public discourses on this important event and what we have done since we have been in government over the past 3 years. Guyana is a radically different place, a transformed place, and the transformation is ongoing, and you can see it at every corner and crevice in this country. Monumental changes have been made across every single sphere of governmental and human conduct in this country. Every sphere of it has been touched by the transformational arm of our government. As we continue, but you will hear more about that from those who will speak, including yours truly, tomorrow on other discourses. I know that you have been asking persistently for an update on the criminal charges filed in relation to the irregularities and attempts at fraud in respect of the March 2nd, 2020 general and regional elections. And you are right to be persistent. You are right to inquire. Some 28 charges have been instituted, and they are all pending in the magistrates' courts of Georgetown. A special prosecutor has been appointed by the Director of Public Prosecutions, and that prosecutor has a team of lawyers. The progress with those cases has been unsatisfactory, to say the least. And I can relate to your frustration in respect to the progress or lack of progress being made with these cases. I have asked, the special prosecutor is currently out of the country. As soon as he returns to Guyana, I have asked him to do an update. Sit with a journalist on a television set and speak on what have been transpiring in these several cases. You need to know, the people of Guyana, these are cases of national importance. They touch on concerns, issues of public importance, vital and crucial to law and order in this country and to the democratic architecture of our nation. And you, the people, you were following these events. You played a significant role in ensuring that the rule of law was maintained, that the will of the people prevailed, and that democracy was preserved and protected. And you are entitled, therefore, to know about the outcome, or rather an update. You are entitled to an update because all of you, many of you, called for these charges. You were outraged, and rightfully so, by what was done. And the charges, to the credit of the police, were instituted and placed before the magistracy. And that is where they have been. And we are now celebrating 3 years. And they have not advanced in the manner that they should have, in my respectful view. The special prosecutor will update you, and you will hear for yourselves from him. I have asked him to write to the DPP and prepare a report, and hopefully the DPP can make good use of that report. So I know that you have been asking for that on this program. So that's what will be done in the very near future, before the end of this month, when that special prosecutor returns to Guyana. Government does not control the way cases are conducted. Many people believe that because I'm the Attorney General and the Minister with responsibility for legal affairs and justice, that I can somehow influence the way the courts functions. I can't, either at the magistrates court or at the level of the High Court or any tier of the judicial structure. But it doesn't mean that the citizen who is aggrieved by the process does not have a remedy. There are remedies. There are remedies. So Thursday, well, I want to also update you on a case that I spoke about on this program. And it's a case that was filed by the Guyana Public Service Union, challenging the nomination of Mohandat Gulsaran to sit on the Public Service Commission. The Constitution provides for the National Assembly to recommend to the President two persons who are representing workers, two persons coming from bodies, and that's the word the Constitution uses, bodies representing public officers and classes of public officers. The GPSU is one of such body, and the GPSU send their nominees. And there's an organization called the Senior Staff Association. And that organization also sent a nominee. And the two nominees were accepted by the National Assembly and sent on to the President for the President to appoint. This Senior Staff Association has been sending nominees to the National Assembly since 2002. It came into existence in the year 2002, and it has been sending nominees since. GPSU never challenged it in court. Never. In fact, the National Assembly moved a motion and passed a motion and identified in that motion the Senior Staff Association as a recognized body to satisfy that requirement in the Constitution. In other words, a body that is qualified to send nominations to the National Assembly. The National Assembly recognized the body, and the Constitution put the power in the National Assembly to get nominees from bodies who appear to the National Assembly as representing public officers. Yet after 20 years, without previously challenging, the GPSU suddenly decided they will challenge Mr. Mohandat Gulsaran. The matter was heard by the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice described, after hearing all the arguments, the Constitution speaks to bodies. The case presented by the GPSU was that the Senior Staff Association is not a trade union, that's first thing, and that it is not a trade union recognized by the Trade Union Certification Board. Now, the Constitution speaks to bodies, not trade unions. It can be a religious organization, it can be a credit society, it can be a co-op society, it can be a credit union. I don't know how the word bodies were interpreted by is interpreted by the GPSU to mean trade unions. Bodies could be a PTA, a religious organization. Any organ can be described as a body. Yet the GPSU believes that that word body means union, trade union. And not only means trade union, but it means a trade union recognized by the Trade Union Recognition Board as representing public servants. All of that is being read into the word bodies. So that was the first argument. And it is so easy to answer. First of all, bodies doesn't mean trade unions. To confine the meaning of the word bodies to trade unions is doing an injustice, is violating the definition of the word bodies, is doing a violence to grammar. It's distorting the grammatical meaning of the word body. How body will mean trade union? Body includes trade unions. A body will include a trade union. But the truth of the matter is, when the evidence was put forward before the court, the Senior Staff Association is a trade union. It is registered under the Trade Union Act. It is registered under the Trade Union Recognition Board, and it is recognized by the Trade Union Recognition Board as a body representing public officers, or as a trade union representing public officers. So from every conceivable ground, they had no case. And the Chief Justice correctly described the case as frivolous, vexatious, and without an iota of merit. I believe those are the exact terms. And awarded $1.5 million in costs against the GPSU. So there's another set of costs that I will have to go after if they do not pay. I believe they were granted a few days to pay the costs. So I thought I'll update you on that. Thursday coming, we will be having a sitting of the National Assembly where a number of very important bills will be debated, and also a motion will be moved by the Finance Minister, the Honorable Dr. Ashni Singh, to raise the ceiling limit for borrowing. And you will hear the opposition that will come to that motion. I have already seen one newspaper running a series of articles criticizing the government for borrowing and for raising the debt ceiling. Well, I don't know of any human being who has succeeded in life without borrowing. That's the first thing. I don't know of any human being who has reaped substantial success without borrowing. That's the first thing. I don't know of any country on planet Earth who has developed and moved transformationally without borrowing. You, in your individual and personal lives, which one of you have attained any great degree of success without borrowing? In Guyana, the PNC and certain people in the press believe that borrowing is a horrible thing. It is not. Borrowing is a developmental step. The difference between the PNC and the PPP is that the PNC borrows wholesale. They borrow irrationally. And in the end, they have nothing to show for it. So in 1992, we inherited a country where we had $2.3 billion of national debt. We were repaying debt at 92% of GDP. 92 cents out of every dollar was going towards debt payments in 1992 after they left government. And they had nothing to show. Every part of the country was broken. So what did they do with the money? What did they do with this money? When they came back into government in 2015, they borrowed astronomically. Astronomically they borrowed again. When they left in 2020, what did they leave? What did they leave? All the projects that they completed were PPP projects. They did not do a housing scheme. They did not build a new road. What did they do with all the money that they borrowed from 2015 to 2020? They left the gold board bankrupt. They left the housing funds, Ministry of Housing Funds, depleted. They left the Forestry Commission bankrupt. And these were multi-billion dollars agencies. They've run down the gold reserve. They left a deficit in the central bank. And they borrowed huge sums of money, had nothing to show. So internally they depleted. They borrowed externally. And you live in this country. What have they done? Which project you can point to say, this is where X amount of money was expended? Compare that to what is going on now. Look at the highways that are being built. Look at the gas to shore project that is being constructed. Look at the Demerara Harbour Bridge. Look at the stadia that are being built in Berbice, in Linden. Look at the highways across the Demerara River. Just look around, the whole country is under construction. The entire country is under construction. So you see the use of the loan money. You see it being used. And what is wrong with increasing one's capacity to borrow? As your income base increases, as your spending capability increases, as your economy begins to grow, naturally your ability to borrow will also correspondingly increase. First of all, you become credit worthy and people are prepared to lend you money because they see what you're doing and they see that you're solid financially. Just in your personal lives, when you started to work first, when you bought your first home, first of all, 99% of you had to borrow. You had to borrow. I'm not even asking, I'm telling you. And when your salary was small, you borrowed based upon your income. As your salary increases, as your capacity to earn increases, are you not going to take a bigger loan because you want greater things in life? That is how people develop, and that's how countries develop. Are you going to stay at the same level that you were when you began to work and your salary was, let us say, $100,000 per month? You're now earning $500,000 a month. You want more things. You want to live a better quality of life. You want to acquire more material benefits for your children. So you will borrow more because you can pay back more. The PNC doesn't understand that. They never understood that. So to them, raising the ceiling limit is a horrendous thing. It's a tragedy. You will hear them in the parliament screaming at it, and the world will come to an end. It's simply because they don't understand developmental economics. They don't understand, they never did it. They don't do it in their personal lives, unfortunately, and they don't envision, they can't envision how it can happen nationally. But every one of you listening to me can relate to what I'm saying. Those of you who live in North America, you will know that you had to borrow to buy your house. And as you earning more, you can borrow more if you want to progress. That's how the human being, that's how we build our lives. That is how we become a success story. You grow, you borrow, you build, you grow, you borrow, you build. That's the story of my life. My first loan was $8 million. No, sorry. My first loan was $3 million. My second loan was $8 million. And I don't want to tell you what my current loan is. It's too much for me to tell you. But look at what the asset base is. And you see how it happens. And that is the same thing that happens in a country. So, we are going to discuss many very important bills as well Thursday. One of the important bills that we are taking to the Parliament is the e-communication and transaction bill. And you know, we don't speak about the importance of these bills, and people don't understand how important these bills are and how they will affect their lives. Now, the e-transaction and communication bill is a bill that will lay down now, for the first time in Guyana, the legal infrastructure to do e-governance, to do e-transactions, to pay money, to receive money, to enter into contracts, to perform contracts, to transfer money, all being done digitally by digital platforms. It is converting all the manual processes in the central government into digital processes. Everything that you are doing manually now, you will be able to do digitally once this law is passed, because this law lays the foundation for it. And then we have to build the legal and technological infrastructure now. So you can now pay for government services with your credit card. You can wire transfer monies into the government bank accounts. You can pay, you can, and the thing is that a lot of it you're doing already without even knowing. Many of you are buying in Guyana, you're buying online. You're buying from Amazon. Many of you are doing transactions by emails. You're entering into contracts without knowing it, by emails, digitally, electronically. But there's no legal infrastructure for it in Guyana. Now we are putting down the law. This law is 20 years old, 20 years overdue. Because we are doing these businesses all the time here without a legal basis. You will now have e-signatures that will now be acceptable and accepted. It's going to be lawful now at any institution. Now, if you want a prescription, your doctor can email it to you or email it to your pharmacy. and you go and pick up the drugs. I can give you so many examples. You want to do a contract now, you can be in Guyana and somebody is in the United States, and you sign, and both parties sign, and the contract is valid by the signature. And those parties don't have to be present physically in one place and exchange manual paper documents. It is moving to paperless transactions. It's a very, very important bill, and it cuts across every single transaction. Every single transaction that you are doing now manually can legally be done electronically and by digital means. The rest of the world has gone in this direction, or most countries in the world are moving in this direction. Guyana will now be in that place with this law. It is one of the transformative pieces of legislation that will revolutionize the way business is done in Guyana, the way communications are done in Guyana. We have been scanning and sending documents by email all the time without the legal infrastructure, the legal basis laid down in the law for it. This will now make all of that possible. If you go to the courts and you have to pay, the courts have already gone digital in a large way. But now you can go and pay for services. So it complements the various initiatives of the government. So last month we passed the single window unit bill, a similar bill, where you submit your plans digitally and electronically, and the entire process will be done electronically. Now we are doing another component of electronic governance, e-governance. This is moving Guyana into the next, to the new frontier in central government and in the entire state apparatus, as well as in the private sector. So these are transformational pieces of legislation that will be debated. I am running out of time already, so I want to thank you. Listen to the debate, read about the bill. It is in the official gazette already, and you will understand where we are going, the direction we are going. And that is the transformation that is taking place in this country. It's not, I hear people say that we are building roads. Yes, we are building roads. Yes, we are building roads, and we are building streets, and we are building drains, and we are building bridges. But we are doing much more. We are transforming every facet of life in this country. Every facet of life. It's not happening with the speed at which some people would like it, but it's not easy work. It's night and day people are working. I want to thank you very much for the hour that you have spent with me. I think we have covered a lot of grounds. And tune in to our parliamentary debate on Thursday. Many, many important pieces of legislation are going to be debated. Many important public business will be conducted and addressed, and you can follow the debate. Thank you very much for spending the last hour with me. Please enjoy the rest of the evening and join me next week as we continue discussing important events that have taken place in our country. And before I go, I want to say thank you to Mr. Mike Charles and his crew. They flew me into Madia by helicopter, and they flew me out this afternoon by helicopter, and I told him that I'm going to be in this program and that I will thank him publicly for the excellent work and job that he did. We have 2 new helicopters, and they really flew well, and it was a very enjoyable ride to and from the interior. So Mike, to you and your crew, thank you very much, and Hopefully, I'll get to ride with you once again in the near future. Thank you and good evening.